What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Antoine Effect podcast, a show that is intriguing, mind-bending, and sometimes triggering, but not third eye opening. Thank you. For today's episode, we're going to be joined by house return guest Brendan Kroll. What I think makes Brendan so special is that he's homeschooled, first of all, self-taught on many topics. But what I believe really sets him apart is that, as he said on his previous appearance on the show, is that he would read the dictionary before bed, which I love. We're all scrolling on our phones, but he went for the dictionary. He's originally from New England. He's been writing since the age of 11 and has dedicated his life to seeking and spreading capital T truth, always by backing up his research with non-mainstream historical facts. He's a true well of knowledge, host of the Mana Daily podcast. He owns Krollology 101 on Instagram and TikTok. And when it comes to history, the Bible, and Christianity, he's the reference. I'm so excited that you guys are going to have a taste of his brains tonight. Brendan, thank you for making time for us today. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, sir. That was probably one of the most flowery introductions I have ever received. Like, wow, thank you.
You're welcome, of course. So today, we're going to talk about, well, it's June. Summer's here, but something else is here. Pride is in the air. This is what we're going to be talking today. And this is a sensitive topic, not just because of how big of a movement it is, but also for the origins of pride biblically, but also how deceived people deceived people are, and how positively pride is brought up, especially when love is presented as inclusive and accepting, and you're welcome here.
Yeah.
You don't have to change. You don't have to die to your old self. You don't have to be born again. You were born this way. Pride in the sense of how it is celebrated within the alphabet community. And I'm not using this term to make fun of, or it's just because like algorithm and how YouTube works, like I don't want to be flagged or anything. It's just a sensitive word. It's a trigger word for the internet nowadays, which in and of itself speaks for itself, in my opinion. But also in the way that it's described in the Bible, because pride is a sin. To be prideful, it ties in with self-righteousness from what I understand. But first, I want to touch on love. Brandon, I sent you a list of questions. I don't know if you went through them, but I want to start with love.
Pulled them up here.
Because love is it's a big argument. And not only in the pride community, love is distorted nowadays. Like you have songs like "You Give Love a Bad Name," "I'll Fix You With My Love." No, you can't. Only God can. Love is tolerance. I'll send you a screenshot of an ad I saw from H&M. It said, "Love is tolerance," which means that love has no standards, no boundaries, and people perceive boundaries as restrictive and limiting. But no, like boundaries, when you think of boundaries, it's safety, it's protection, it's nurture, it's like the ice wall, if you will. So, Brendan, what is the biblical definition of love? And if you want to expand on anything that I just touched upon, floor is yours.
What is love? That's another song.
Baby, don't hurt me.
No more. Don't hurt me. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to start it. A nice segue there. But yeah, biblically speaking, I had somebody ask me, well, what would be a word you'd use to describe the Bible as an entirety, as a whole? And I said it's a love story. His eyebrow, he's like, what? It's a love story. You have this entire Old Testament book that is talking about God's relationship with man, and then he has this particular set of people. He sets this whole 10 Commandments up with a thing known as the ketubah. That's what actually the 10 Commandments ceremony was. They were at the base of a mountain, and they had this little hapa tent. If I'm pronouncing it correct, if not, I apologize. But they had like a little tent where the ceremony would take place in the base and shadow of the mountain, and the ceremony was being transcribed on a series known as the ketubah. It would be these stone tablets, and this would be exchanged between a couple. This is how it was originally done. That's quote unquote like what a covenant is. What happened with these tablets once they were transcribed? They were put within the Ark of the Covenant. That was God's presence in the camp. His word is his love. Now, here's the thing. And I just thought of this as I'm saying it. When God sends his son, Christ, it says the word became flesh, right? And you have Old Covenant, that's what Testament is equivalent to. And then you have New Covenant, New Testament. And what did he do? God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. You know, John 3:16. Classic, most people would know, even if they don't really read the Bible on a regular basis. But what did that mean? Well, we have to rewind for just a second. We have in Jeremiah 3:8, I have given Israel the bill of divorce, and her sister Judah as well, for playing the harlot. Everybody's saying, oh, you're taking that out of context. I'm like, am I?
Just for my reference and the listeners, what's a harlot?
Harlot. Harlot is a someone who's playing a prostitute, equivalent of an SLUT in today's more modern vernacular.
Thank you.
And again, that for censor purposes. But I think everybody knows how to do that.
Yes.
But that is basically what they were doing. And they were doing that by their actions. You know, actions speak louder than words. And they were constantly flirting with the other cultures. They constantly wanted their gods. They wanted to have a structure like they had. And God's like, you got me. And you don't really want it? Okay. So again, when you're fallen angels and you have a semi gauge of how the celestial creator thinks, but you don't know his mind. But as like even with us, we don't know his mind, but we know his heart because he sent his son, word became flesh. And this is what is significant then about communion, is that this is my body, this is my flesh. And I think I might have explained this before, but for context of this episode, this was going into a ceremony, a cup ceremony, where dad would arrange the marriage. He'd bring the young man over, and then he'd say, okay, these are my terms. These are my expectations. This is my daughter. I want to pass the baton of responsibility and care and her well-being towards you. And he'd give him the half a cup of wine and said, you know, drink of this. And then if the young man did, he accepted. So then they would take the rest of it and they'd hand it over to the daughter. And it was here, as opposed to the patriarchy, it was here she had the choice to say, I don't want that cup. Let's go back to the drawing board. I want to see if there's somebody else out there. Or she could accept the father's selection for her husband. What would go on with that? The young man would go and extend onto his father's house to induct in this new bride into his family. And this is proven by what Christ says to his disciples, I go to prepare a place for you up in my father's house. And then Hebrews 8:13 goes and says he makes the new covenant. This is why the New Testament ends up becoming, we are the bride of Christ. It's no longer special ethnicity. It's now open to everybody who chooses the Father's Son, just like that little bride ceremony. So if I had to pick a definition, I would say the definition of love is having an expectation, but also like a marriage, it's humbling yourself and realizing you have to surrender a bit of yourself in order to be a part of this relationship. I heard one pastor put it this way. You want to find out how selfish you are? Get married. So,
yeah, because to get to the Father, you have to die to your old self. So surrender a part of yourself, like getting married.
Your autonomy.
Or is what?
Your autonomy.
How is that?
Autonomy is you basically your self-identity. You lose all. It's just me, as opposed to now I'm being part of somebody, because you become one flesh once you start mating. That's what's biblically is supposed to be transcribed, is that you guys are now become one flesh,
one soul. Yeah.
Occurred. This is similar to a spiritual aspect of things. That is what the ripping of the veil, the temporal veil, when Christ drew his last breath, the temple veil ripped in two. What did that mean? It means that no longer a high priest had to go into the Holy of Holies, God's presence. It now could indwell you. So greater is he that is within you than he is of the world. Know ye not your body is a temple of the Lord.
Yeah, because now we have the Holy Spirit, because he died on the cross to pay for our sins. That's
correct.
Is that the ripping apart?
Well, that's what that gift did. That is the gift, as opposed to people saying it's a triune and that's part of God. It's like, not really. It's more potent and powerful when you understand that he gave a son. And Stephen the Martyr, he says, when I look up, I see God the Father and the Son standing on the right side of the throne. And then you have 1 John 2:22. You are Antichrist that deny the Father and the Son. Emphasis.
That's just how much he loves us.
Mhm.
He wants. I heard God wants us, but he doesn't need us. Whereas we need him, but we don't. Like some of us don't want him. But it's he loves us so much and wants us so much that he sent his only son to die, so that we didn't have to pay for our sin. Like he paid for our sin. But then if we keep sinning, like knowing that it's a sin, it's disobedience at this point, right? But I would,
Correct.
yeah. But I digress. I wanted to, yes, the love. It's like a father. If I have a child and I'm overbearing, overprotecting, if my boundaries are too strict, a little bit like most people perceive God as super strict and severe and narcissistic,
Mhm.
the child is not going to grow and learn from their mistakes. Like you want to raise a child with all of your love, but also let them choose you back. Let them go and let them realize that you really love them or that the father really loved them and they're going to come back. And that's what I think most people journeys are like. We get lost and then we find God again.
And it's like you won't appreciate it. Like if everything's just handed to you,
Or
you don't.
forced.
Yes, it says you don't get it.
Because people
That.
say, why do we have to go through all of this? Why doesn't God just give it to us already?
Mhm.
Free will. We have free will.
And that's the significance of God asking Abram. He says, "Yo, I finally gave you your son that you've been requesting for all these years." But all the other cultures, a lot of them have this mindset that they have to sacrifice their first kid in order to obtain immortality in the next life. So God's like, you know what? I'm curious. The guy that I picked, if he'd be willing to be radical enough, put Isaac, a kid that he's waited for all his life, on an altar for me. And of course, he stops him once he's about to go through with it, and is because, okay, it's all
To
good.
get sacrificed?
No, he didn't. He intentionally stopped this going down. He was testing him. Says all the other pagan cultures are doing that, but
Mm.
celestial currency is in blood. God cares about blood being shed because it goes really right back to the first murder. He's Cain and Abel. Cain slew his brother out of jealousy. And what does God say? Cain, I hear your brother's blood crying from the face of the earth. That means your blood has a tracking device. Every single time blood is shed, God cares about that. And in the celestial realm, have you ever seen the Chronicles of Narnia?
Yes.
That scene where he says, "Don't recite the dark magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written." I understand that we have blood oaths here. I understand that a life requires a life, and I'm going to put my personal body, who has even a higher cost spiritually speaking. I'm going to go on that altar for Edmund here because I understand that there needs to be blood shed, but I will redeem him because of who I am. That is a metaphor of what goes in the Bible. He's saying, Abram, because you did that through your seed, Isaac, I am going to send the Savior. And that's the new covenant. It's right there in the
Mm.
Bible, and most folks can't equate that, saying, whoa, so he still fulfilled it. Yes.
Wow. Wow.
Pretty freaking powerful stuff, dude.
Yes.
Most
Yes.
people don't get that as well. So consider yourself very fortunate because that is a beautiful thing when you're going, he threw this story in there, or he made these actions go down. So years later, I can see the parallel between Abraham and Christ on a cross. How crazy that is.
I have yet to finish the Bible, but the more I read it, the more I hear it quoted, and the book is alive, right? At first I was like, yes, I read it, but I wish I read it slower because it doesn't stay in, but no, it does stay in. Sometimes I'll hear it or just a context or a movie, and I say, oh, that's biblical. That's in the Bible. That was put in the Bible, and it's
Yeah.
fun. It's really fun.
And they do that a lot. And it's like, guys, this is something I was noticing with every other religion. They usually don't go after the leader. They don't go after the Buddhists. They don't go after Muhammad. They go after the ethnicity.
Hmm.
Only religion or faith that they go after both is Christianity.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
it's like, why? You never say all Muslims and you go with Muhammad. You go, I just don't like religions. But with
Mhm.
Christianity, you go right after Christ specifically.
Yes. People
Why?
flinch at the word Jesus.
Yes.
Like you can't. you can't lead a yoga class with biblical principle. People are just not comfortable with it. It's like it's in the ethos of today. There's like a spirit of Jesus almost.
Yes. But then again, unless you're seeking, you won't find it. Because like a lot of like we're noticing with Trump followers, it's like I literally am showing you clips that's endorsing him idolatry wise, but you don't want to acknowledge that how excessive it's gone. Why? Because you would rather have your illusion be confirmed. That's what's called the Great Deception, the last days, or in Revelation, that's a very hard book to read. But what does it call? The whore of Babylon. Whore. What's a whore do? Oh, it's a fake love. It's a prostitute. It's a connection, but it doesn't really
Mm.
mean anything. Nothing's
Mhm.
solidified. So what's a whore do? It pulls you away from your true love, and that's what an ideology does. And God constantly is having symbolism. And again, that's the stuff I tap into of showing. Okay, you want to play games? Let's play games, and I will always trump it every single time because I am God. I don't care how many times the enemy tries to create a parody, a similarity, or tries to pull everything away. I will eventually show that my people, I am your God. And you, again, free will, have that choice. God allows the decision, Satan provides the temptation, we determine the outcome.
Mm. Speaking of God and taken away, back to the alphabet community.
Mm-hmm.
They preach love, but I feel everything but love. All the
Mm-hmm.
posts that I see on Facebook are Happy Pride Month to all homophobics. I hope you have spent a very uncomfortable month. It's all presented with negativity, always.
Mm.
And I'll send you a meme. I'll send you a meme. Where is it? Right here.
Like a caustic narcissism.
Yes, I was even watching. This is something that would be really interesting to have you react to, but just out of curiosity, I watched the first season, the first episode of season 16 of RuPaul's Drag Race. I used to be a huge fan. I I renounced that. I'm not watching it anymore, but I watched it just out of curiosity. RuPaul says everybody say love as
Yeah,
like a tagline. When he judges the participants, he says and eliminates one. He says, "As it is written, so it should be done." I'm like, no, the only that's not the that's not just the word is written, you know. Not, you can't. They're using and even one of the contestants called okay, a little bit of context. The queens, the drag queens, the contestants, they call RuPaul mother, and he even or he even has a song called "Call Me Mother." One of the contestants goes and like in one of their they were competing, like they were doing their show on stage, and he
yeah,
says he called RuPaul, didn't call him mother, he called him beloved father. Everybody was shocked because like she's like, why are you calling me father? And he's like, you know what, alluding to what's in his pants, you know, because like it's a running
right,
gag. It's like a running gag that he's not a woman, but like he's a man dressed. They're all men dressed as women.
right.
I digressed again, but the show is so full of self-righteousness and insecurity, where what they sell is community support and that like come with us, you're gonna be accepted, you're gonna be whole, you're gonna feel like yourself. But they're
Right.
always constantly looking for themselves through surgeries, implants, sex reassignment, wigs, makeup. They're never just themselves. If you
Right.
die, all of this artifice just goes away, and it's not. But they find identity in a facade that is
Yes.
marketed as inclusive and accepting and authentic and who you truly are.
Hmm.
That is not love.
Correct.
The more that I watch pop culture in this show, like my Jesus radar was running out the entire time. Like it's like there's a thing that says God will give you eyes to see, or taking the scales off my eyes. I used to find it super entertaining and fun, and but now it's just ooh, they're really going after Christ, and I think it's more exaggerated nowadays. We see a lot of attack towards Christ. In Rio, I don't know if you've seen the parades, but they were doing like a
You're
parade, and they were tossing somebody. dressed as Christ around on a cross, like imagery of violence against Jesus in plain
Yeah.
sight. And people are thinking it's entertaining and just mocking the Bible and mocking the patriarchy. And
Right.
do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not a whole Virgin Mary thing because again, that's counterfeit in Christianity with Catholicism. But
Mhm.
I saw a clip from 2017. I think it was in Argentina, and it was during like some kind of abortion clinic thing, and they had aborting baby Jesus cosplayers, and it's one of the most grotesque photos I've ever seen. I cried for like a half hour seeing it. I was like, how sick and perverse your mind has to be to even come up with a premise like that, and so much hatred in your heart to come up with that imagery for others to have to witness. And for me, I was over here like, this is just another validity for me. If you ever did have doubts, why? I don't see them doing this with Buddha. I don't see him doing this with Muhammad. It's only with particularly Christ. There's something off with that. And that gives me only further confirmation that what I believe, there is something there.
Mhm. Mhm.
When they're trying to create,
Do you think Buddha
sorry,
is a fallen angel?
I laugh. I don't know who he was or what you want to go with the definition, but here's one thing he did say, that it's often the teacher comes to point the way and the student ends up worshiping the pointer. So,
Yeah.
irregardless of whether he
Yeah.
was a parody of Mithra or this was a real life individual that actually had good ideologies, but was just kind of bastardized as in kind of like the Life of Brian parody of making him into a messiah like figure. I think that's irregardless. I'm laughing that when in New England where I'm at, you have the Virgin Mary like on one side of the steps, and you have the Buddha on the other, and I'm over here going, well, which one
Over the
is it?
same building. Yeah, it's exactly what I'd go for. But
Right, and you're like you're taking a buffet religion approach, where it's like take a little of this and a little of that because it's good teachings,
yeah, and I'll
but
make
it's
my
like
own.
graven images. These
Yeah.
are graven images regardless of both sides. So
Yeah. But didn't he change his name? Like he became Buddha, I think. Or am I mistaken?
I think so. But
Because I was
even
I was I was telling you the other day about I was just going off thoughts one thought after the other, and I was thinking about the zombie apocalypse. And then I was like, it is a zombie apocalypse, and it'd be like a mass demon possession mixed with AI, one or the other or both, and we're like both. But about the mass demon possession, that's the thing with New Age spirituality, if you want to segue there for a bit. These practices, you're yoking yourself to these lowercase god deities or fallen angels, like doing these yoga poses. Yoga means yoking. You're yoking yourself to this deity. And then you lay on the ground in Shavasana, which is the dead pose, completely dissociated from your body. Like your mind is blissful, but you're not there. So you're opening up your vessel for demon possession. Did Buddha elevate his consciousness so high, just popped out and got swapped by an entity called Buddha?
right.
That's what I mean with like fallen angel or demon. And
It's like a regeneration, reincarnation, whatever you want to go with. I mean, that's kind of what Mithraism is like, oh, I sacrificed the bull, so therefore I've sacrificed like the inner self, and like and
hmm,
now I can get rid of the ego, so I can now ascend. That's what like a lot of this stuff, you'll always find a similar core. But at the same time, why is it two snakes? What's the crux? Like, if you again, I follow these other pages, or I'll have it pop up because what I dabble in, it'll show me symbolism, and I'm like, why is there an eye as the bulb on top of the Caduceus staff? That tells me everything I need to know. That goes to chakra, and then when you put all of it together, you're like, it all comes down to a root lie, variations thereof, of course, but it's the same lie.
hmm.
What I was going to say earlier is that the people that are making all these graven images of stone idols, I was just noticing it says their hearts are made of stone, because that's again, they don't have any heart or spirit. That's why they want to have their flesh feel like it's alive. When you're dead inside, you live for a thrill or something that makes you feel alive or different and unique.
Because you're dead. Your sin makes you dead. until
Sin
you're
makes you dead, and it also can make you kind of blind.
yeah.
That's honestly what it comes down to. Like with the cognitive dissonance that I'm seeing, it's I have to be right, because if I'm wrong, then everything I've ever done is wrong. And it's like, yeah, I hate to tell you this, that's most people. And as a
Yeah.
Christian, it sucks, but at the same time, it also gives you a little hope, because you're like, so there's something better I can strive for. Doesn't mean I'll ever reach it, quote unquote, like, ascending an aspect, but it means I can strive for it, so much so that I'm different from the rest of the culture enough for them to go, yo, what's changed with you, man? There's
Mm-hmm.
something really different. Like, everybody else is doing Christmas trees, and you're over here just sitting like, why aren't you? It's just like, I don't do that. Well,
Mm-hmm.
why? Well, you go again, and it can be any aspect or avenue of personal choices that you make. Like, I used to
Yeah.
be a raging alcoholic. Now I don't touch it anymore. Why? Because it compromised my abilities and it hurt my family. And I was basically in self pity. I was doing it. I wasn't doing it for just recreational drinking. I was doing it to please myself. So I don't touch it anymore because of Christ. And then there's like, this is what it is. It might be small and micro, but it does affect folks that are around you.
Mm-hmm. Something that shocked my surrounding is when I sold my Taylor Swift CDs. Sold them. I'm a demon dealer now. I thought about burning them. I burned my tarot cards. That's for sure.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. I sold my astrology books. Sorry. But yeah, there's a bunch of things that I'm ridding myself of. We have to sacrifice those things we loved. And I mean, I still listen to a little bit of Taylor Swift here and there, not gonna lie, but not to the point of, not to the same level of idolatry. And I'm not losing myself in the music.
Right.
Some lyrics, I'm like normalizing heartbreak, normalizing
Mm.
having multiple relationships, normalizing using men for your own pleasure, just toying with men. And she has a song called I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, which is all about open, I'm brokenhearted. Like I just came out of a relationship, but look how I'm still thriving,
Right.
and
Right.
hustling and living my best life, likely chasing after other men. It's it's a good song. It's a bop. I sonically I love it, but I can't help but hear the witchcraft and the spells that are being casted. And I was a I said that in my last episode that came out this morning. I was looking forward for heartbreak. I was under the Taylor Swift spell.
Mm-hmm.
I would go in relationships and romanticize about when it would end, and I'd be heartbroken and back alone and blasting my Taylor Swift. That's that's the cycle, and it's
Right.
same with Christmas, and it's a lot of those little things that you cling to your entire life, and you think it's just benign and no big deal, but no, it's actually your God can't coexist with that.
Well, especially because I think a lot of people who listen to Taylor Swift, we have a lot of feminism. Like you said, it's producing this self independent aspect as opposed to the beauty of coming into a relationship and realizing a beautiful purpose of nurturing
Mhm.
aspect. And a man, saying this on the other show yesterday, I said a lot of times like men would stay up and they'd smoke a tobacco by the fireplace and they'd talk all night, regardless of the Masonic aspects of something there and there. But I mean, it was more of a community
Yeah.
where let's talk about what we read in the newspaper or the Bible. And it wasn't, you know, nowadays you go to a function and I'm often with guys that are over here like, oh, I gotta get back home to the missus. Oh, I can't. It's just like, come on, can you not, you know?
Mhm.
And I laugh. And I think that's kind of sad because we've also made men become very feminine and impulsive with how they think and how they rationalize. Logic has gone out the window so that they can't even be the rational, level-headed person. And I think then what happens, the government utilizes that and they're like, okay, now we need your donations to get this politician to fight these bad guys that we've created. It's a cycle, but it starts with things like that, with the music that you just listen to on the average day. It starts with the programs that you're watching, and it just gradually gets you into that mindset of, well, I couldn't possibly be wrong because everything that entertains me tells me I'm right.
It is a self-affirming system. Back
Yes.
to back to the community. I was talking about my friend who posted on Facebook, "Happy Pride Month to all homophobes." Why do you think this community is so bitter and unhappy and frustrated if it's supposed to be empowering and uniting?
I think honestly, it's kind of like a cult. And I'm not trying to like, just you're at the cult because I don't agree with it. It's more of a cult
Well,
as it's built on
you don't know you're a
um
cult until you realize you're in one, you know?
right. Well, it weaponizes on your feelings. It weaponizes on your abuse. It
The
never
victim
had
mentality.
right. It never had an organic of nurturing, and there is no nurturing within that group. Just like with I think it was a school shooting that occurred around in the Nashville region, about 2 years, maybe a year ago, at a Christian school, and that person shoots up the whole school. Nobody really like you read her suicide thing, whatever it was, and it was implying and entailing, oh, no one's listening to me. You didn't hear anybody talk about that particular aspects. They all talked about how she was the victim and yeah, but nobody put up any symbolism or
How lonely she
pity
felt. Yeah.
for those who died by this person's hands.
Yeah.
And I think you weaponize the
Yeah.
victimizer over, and again, to use it as a martyr, but you didn't really like that person itself was already feeling depressed because in your community, nobody was listening to me either.
hmm
And that's either straight by whatever, I don't know. Nobody was listening. So that's not really a community. Like my buddy and I, we broke that again. You could hear it on the show. I was like, so it's not really a community, it's a gang. He's like, yeah, I guess you could see it. We came to
Yeah.
that conclusion. It's a gang of, again, a lot of the black individuals or Hispanic. They break down their homes intentionally with putting drugs in that system, breaking down the homes. So dads get killed, get arrested, incarcerated. What does the kid do? This is where we get the song with Coolio.
I don't
They
know. That's
join,
all.
yeah, too blind to see, you know what I'm talking about,
I'll
right?
look it up later. Well,
Gangster's Paradise. Yeah, Gangster's Paradise.
oh,
But
yes.
it really breaks it down for you is this is what we
Yes.
do now in our world and culture. It's so broken and nobody sees it, but we all gravitate towards a gang because it makes me feel like I have a family and a sense of belonging. And they do
Mhm.
this with their own people, they do it with this, and they create it all the time.
Is this how you create an army for the end game? I know we're gonna touch the end game with your slides, but like, is it how you create broken people uniting together to kind of like you're seeking protection with by the group
Yes.
by being many people together? You feel protected, you feel affirmed, like I'm not alone in this.
Right.
But if I, like you said, it's a gang and nobody really listens. I can speak from experience as well. Like I would
Right.
go out in gay clubs. I would surround myself with other gay people and have gay friends. And I'm not putting everyone in the same boat. I've met lovely, kind, loving homosexual people. However, some of them, if not most, are blatantly focused on themselves.
Yeah.
Not only in the way they dress and the way they act, they talk, their mannerism, the surgeries they get, like they're focused on the flesh. But when I would date, quote unquote, some of them, it was all about like I could feel they were concerned about how I was perceiving them. Like in hindsight, that's
Right.
what I was feeling because I thought I felt that way.
Right. You were feeding off the anxiety.
Yes, and I thought I was
Right.
anxious, and I'm sensitive like that. Not sensitive. Well, I'm emotional too. Like I cry a lot since January, but I'm sensitive in the I sense things
Right. Right.
sometimes, and I would take that as my own. But I would take some of that as my own, and I was vain. I had vanity. Like I confess to that, and today still to some degree. But like I'll catch myself, glip at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, am I still doing this? Are we still doing that? But yeah, it's so vain and it feels empty. And I was craving this connection this whole time, and probably just it was the 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 whole shape as a cross in my heart that was longing to be filled. And it's still I don't think it's empty, but I don't think it's fully filled yet.
Mm.
but it's something I was longing for and searching, like in drugs, alcohol, seeking thrills, going out, homosexual relationships, possibly. And yeah, like, but it was always, I was always coming back home empty. Like the hole would be
Mm.
filled during the time that it would last, but
Right, right.
it's always empty at the end of the day. Yeah, it's like your the new age, your spiritual practices. They're a spiritual narcotic. You're always going back to your yoga practice, always going back to whatever it is. Oh, little question for you. Breath work. Intentionally breathing with different patterns to oxygenate the body, calm your nervous system down. Would it be a satanic practice? Because there's a breath, right? That like God blew the air in man, and so that's kind of a way to play, well, to use the breath in honor to God. I don't know. Like, could it be holy in that sense? But on the flip side, certain type of breath work, like holotropic breath work,
Yeah.
you dissociate. Like you kind of go into altered states of consciousness. Does that open you up for demon possession?
Yes. And this is what I tell people because, if anybody's gotten this far, I purchased these like some basic stretches, like opening up your lower back and stuff like that.
Yeah, stretching,
But when
fitness.
you're sitting there for the breathing and the other things that you're implying, there's definitely no, you're not stretching anymore. Now you're trying to access something that's not just a stretch anymore. You're trying to access something that's going to pervert you or open you up to something to possess you. That's my personal take.
Yes. What
From what
if,
I've looked into.
but what if we did breath work before angels mated with women and created the Nephilim? Because that's what demons are, right? The dead
Right.
Nephilim roaming the earth. And that's something that is, I hate to say, people, now is not the time to elevate your consciousness and unlock these superpowers because there's all of these demons. It sucks to say that. It sucks. It's now is not the time. Is there a time? Was there a time?
I think from what I've read, that there was the seven sacred sciences that were there, but they were perverted. What they were to an extent.
So there's an authentic.
Yes, well, there's authentic and then there's counterfeit, and I think it's just like with Christianity, that's always the parody and counterfeit, and you really have to use the level of discernment of Harlot. Am I when I'm buying these yoga books or something like that, am I trying to access this sort of thing? When I'm, because I personally don't see something wrong with like I have a bad knee or something like that, and it was a guy, a chiropractor, and it's a yoga stretch, but it was a bad knee that I got from a bust when I was working.
Yes.
So does that mean I'm no? Because
Yeah, it's not because you're Christian that you have to suffer and
right,
not move and not stretch for your whole life. Yeah, there's a way
and
that
I'm
you
like,
can.
it's supposed to be for therapeutic, not for ascending, not for spirituality. It's literally just
Gotcha.
opening up my muscles around the joint. So again, I'm probably gonna get flack for that, but again, I try to say there's an evil aspect that you can do. It's just like Star Wars. You got the Force. They're using the Jedi are using it for good. The other ones are using it for bad. And I'm not endorsing it. I'm not like trying to tap into some God consciousness versus demonic realm. All I'm saying is there might have been at some point. There
Yeah.
might have been at some point because people used to live to almost 800, 900, 500 years old. There had to have been
Oh,
something there.
so that's true.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Again, I know. Well, think about it. If the Garden of Eden was the purest food that you've ever had of nutrients and stuff like that, you're also to the rectus to the source of celestial touching and stuff like that. You are going to be loaded
Yeah.
genetically wise and very
Yeah.
potent in resistance and your healing factors. By the time you get down to us, we're essentially like miscreants at the end of the
Mm,
day because we live for
hmm.
like what 70, 100 if we're lucky, maybe past that. Excuse me. If you eat a decent diet or something like that, like some of these people, you're just like, well, what was your secret? Well, I did this every single day. And you're just like, oh. So I'm sure there was at some point some sort of teaching that was going down. I think most of it today, it's not worth tapping into because it's probably corrupted.
Hmm.
And I don't think we really need that anymore because we have access to the Holy Spirit just
Oh,
with
yeah.
discernment.
Yeah.
If people truly know what the Holy Spirit is, like I said, it's not. A lot of people are saying they're Christian, but then you kind of have to sift out, like, what do you think about the Trinity? What do you, or the triune aspect? What do you think
Yeah.
about what's going on right now in the Middle East and that special country? Everybody's going to be like, oh, you need to support them because they're God's people. It's not about ethnicity; it's about our spirituality. And Galatians 3:28 and 29 throws that argument right out the water because everybody can have access now. There's no clause of exclusivity. It's no longer like that. Everybody can do that. But by weaponizing, the war on terror and infusing that into our theology, and again, war on terror, they're infusing that with the concept of when they were conquering Canaan, they were conquering Ishmaelites. It's like, no, they were conquering Nephilim aspects of things. Big difference than when you start reading the Bible, you're going, oh, and it's proof. They say there were giants in those lands. You read about all the kings in those lands. They're giants.
Yeah. Yeah. And which gets me thinking, when they were Christianizing everyone, was it the Crusades? Was it what's it called? Or just how Christianity was going for the Mayas, the Incas, even First Nations, and Christianizing
Catholic
them?
Church. Yeah.
What?
Spanish.
Oh, it was a Catholic Church. Because what I thought this was because they were concerned that these tribes or nations were worshiping fallen angels, lowercase god, like Christocrato, however you pronounce that word,
Right.
the Mayan god.
Right. No, like that's something a lot of people don't seem to realize is that the Catholic Church, especially Jesuits,
So what
it
are
literally,
Jesuits?
huh?
What are Jesuits?
They
And
are views that have crazy. They basically dictate what really goes on in the Vatican. Vatican is basically a Judaic reboot just for Gentiles. So a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's part of Christianity." It's like, no, it's not.
hmm,
It's counterfeit to its core. And you can break down the word like pontifex used to mean the chief of the pagan priests. Sol Invictus, where we get the word soldier, soul. And then you get Dier means destined to die. So you're destined to die for a sun god. Des Volt, Just Full Invictus used to be the full title of that. So
oh
yeah, and then Nun used to be the Hebrew word for fish. Dagon, the little Mitra hat that he wears, connects to Mithraism.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, and you're just like at a certain point, guys, there is like so many elements here, just symbolism wise, etymology wise, that makes you go, how is this Christian? Oh, we Christianized it. No, it's camouflage paganism at its finest, and you don't need
Hmm.
robes, you don't need a whole huge building, you don't need a lot of gold, you don't need your parishioner. This is what makes people pull away from Christianity. And here's another aspect. I was digging around, and I've now read 2 books. They're talking about the definition originally for Allah comes from a god that was in the region known as Sin. And I was laughing because sin in Greek means to miss the mark. But then you have
Gotcha.
synagogue, S-Y-N. But I'm wondering, synagogue, you have cathode. Cathode mean universal or moon worship. And then you
Oh,
have Allah, which connects to moon worship, which eventually to Ishtar and Nana. So you kind of go, synagogue of Satan. I'm just saying, folks, because the unholy trinity of Babel,
devil's in the details.
yes, they all worshipped the elements. Like Ra was Nimrod, or the sun god. Then you have Semiramis, which was the moon, or queen of the heavens, which is the name of the Virgin Mary, as of 1954 in the month of October. And again, I'm sure there's probably some variation thereof prior, because you know how the Catholics are, it just became public then. And then you also have the cross, which was the symbol of Tammuz, their son. And that's the thing that Christ died upon.
Oh,
Hello, folks. Like, ding, I think that actually might be the mark of the beast because when you fold up a cross, it
it
is
becomes a
a
box.
Saturn cube. Yes.
Yes. So should we not be wearing a cross?
I personally would not recommend it. I almost think that actually might be the mark of the beast because everybody will be like, well, it's Christian. It's the cross.
Because there's a big movement bringing
Or like an
Christianity
avatar
back.
tattoo. Sorry. But avatar tattoo as a mark. Oh, you can get the box. Oh, you can get the cross. Oh, you can get a moon, varying on whatever religious denomination you have.
Oh, I loved my cross earrings.
I just wouldn't
Yeah,
recommend it because our God is a God of words, not of symbols.
And you don't have, yes, and you don't have to build an idol or anything to worship. Gotcha. And yes, the church is in the heart and all of that. What about Cinderella? Synagogue, Cinderella.
Haven't caught that one. That's an awesome one. Yes, probably. I would imagine. I would
And
imagine,
seven
man.
seven dwarves, seven days of the week, seven chakras. There's probably something there.
Oh, for sure. Different
Okay.
levels
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that you have to consider and weigh.
Yeah. But I digress. About the Christianity coming, it's attacked heavily, but it's also trending. And I think there's a designed, an orchestrating movement coming back. You have, I don't know what her name was, but she was on a red carpet, probably the Met Gala, I'm not sure. She was wearing a white dress, and at the end of her train was the face of Jesus Christ with the thing. Anyway, the face of Jesus Christ on the train of the dress, and she was fighting to make it seen. And bodyguards were like, "No, we don't want to see that. We don't want to see the train." It really seemed staged. Like, oh,
Probably.
she's just trying to bring Christ back. Yes. Then you have Black China. I don't know if you know her.
I've
She
heard the
is,
name. Is she a rapper or
yeah.
something?
I think she's a rapper. She had an OnlyFans at some point.
Mhm.
She appeared on Keeping Up with the Kardashian, which speaks volumes about who she is or was. But here's the thing: she completely switched in Virgin Mary fashion. She removed all of her implants, got all of her tattoos removed by laser. Which, by the way, she had a Baphomet tattoo. She went back completely natural because she wanted to be a good mother for her daughter, which is commendable. I mean, that's something I would do if I was in her shoes, but
Mm.
I cannot help but wonder with the amount of cloud and exposure that this is getting, that it could be controlled opposition or designed to bring people towards Christianity. And as you said, the cross is the mark of the beast. So there's like a fake
Possibly.
Christianity
Possibly.
coming back, and it's gonna, when the Antichrist comes back, they're gonna be like, "Oh, this is Jesus. We believe in Jesus now." But it's the Antichrist.
Yes, and that's what the Catholic Church has already been prepping, is trying to have and like an alien invasion with Project Bluebeam.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think real Christians will be here. I personally don't suspect that because we don't need to be part of the Great Deception. And by that time, I think most of us would be executed because we're the ones that actually are an obstacle to this whole narrative actually taking hold.
So
But
you,
you'll notice Candace Owens, Catholic, Jordan Peterson, Catholic, Russell Brand,
oh,
Catholic, Armari. Trust me up.
Jordan.
Again, trust me, I like him too. But then he's also is very big pro Izzy. So I'm over here like, why? Because everybody is constantly flirting or thinking, I'm going back to the original church. And then you have celebrities doing this kind of thing. Like I think Shia LaBeouf turned Catholic. And they're pushing this movement because, like you said, they're making them think, oh, this is like a good thing. This, or like when these aliens come back, is like, we sent Christ to you. We sent Muhammad to you. We sent Buddha and all these other great ascended masters, and you didn't get it. But don't worry, humanity. We're now here, and we're going to help you as the Anunnaki to help restore balance in this universe, to help you all ascend to where we have reached. That is what I'm seeing. And again, cathode, cathedral, Catholic. It all goes back to universalism and just accepting each other and ourselves.
One mind, one device. Oh, this is
Unreligious.
making me so sad, Brendan.
Just a hunch, but just saying.
So Christians are not, because I thought the real Christian test was going to be that. Are you going to resist the mark of the beast? Are you going to stay strong in your belief despite the opposition, which is the Christian test?
Right.
But
Partially, yep.
like, I'm here. I have some debts to pay off. I live in a system that works with money. I don't want to take the chip. We're likely going to have some sort of digital wallet at some point if we want to buy or sell. Now, the only viable option that I see is going in the woods and just being
It
self-sufficient. Like
implies,
you're saying,
that
are,
you
are
have to
there going
run.
to be some Christians hiding?
I don't know. I mean, they try to pitch the Left Behind series, as in, some people get left. And I think that's very hokey. Also, the whole premise of like a pre tribulation rapture, I find is kind of strange.
I don't believe in the rapture.
Neither do I. And I'm going to be doing a post on that.
Yeah, I think the Christians that do believe in the rapture are going to lose their faith once they realize that, oh, I wasn't saved. No, I think you said that it's not just a one-way ticket to heaven. You don't just have to believe and then celebrate Christmas. No, you really have to
Labor.
labor, repent.
You need to sacrifice. I died to self daily is what Paul wrote, but he calls all his followers laborers.
Yeah.
If it is Mr. T as the Antichrist,
Yeah.
first 3.5 years looks okay.
Uh-huh.
So I would bring it to 2028. And ironically enough, 2028, it'd probably be in the month of June. Maybe. I'm not going to say anything. I don't want a 2012 prophecy and then everybody comes down on me and is like, but that would coincide because they want a new world order by 2030. 2030 again, 2 plus 0 plus 3 plus 0 equals 5. Pentagram, the 5 points on Baphomet's forehead. And I'm going to be showing you with slides
5.
next week. But Solvay was bringing something into existence, which was 9/11. That was coronation day for an Antichrist king.
Oh, God, we have to make an episode on that.
Yeah, coagula on the other arm means blood clot. So what's left? Well, ding, ding, ding. And who's the one that's, partially, I think in part. And then the other half is, like I said, you have 1, 2. So what's this? That's the great illusion, the great deception. People thinking that they can merge with machines or ascend or call it whatever variation you want to. There's going to be many variations to the universal truth, but there's only one path to the real truth. And a lot of people, like I've implied, like you just said, they somehow think, oh, I've accepted Christ, so anything bad, I'm excluded from that because I automatically go straight to heaven. But a lot of Christians don't even understand what the Holy Spirit is because they don't understand that. They're sleeping bridesmaids. And like I explained before, when you're reading the passage, I think it's in Matthew 24, it's talking about people who are servants and they didn't use their talents. And then it goes on to talk about the parable of the sleeping bridesmaids. And 5 of them were awake and 5 of them fell asleep. 5 of them had their lamps ready for the groom's return, which is a metaphor for Christ. And then you had 5 of them that fell asleep. Lamps, thy word is a lamp unto my feet, is what we get in Proverbs, or is it Psalms? And so therefore we know what the lamp equals. But what does the oil represent?
Yeah, I thought that was something at the base of the spine that you would bring back through New Age practices. I thought that's what it was.
I wish, but no, that's not the. But again, if when you understand, oil is discernment. That's the gift. Because you can use the adjective, I'm a bridesmaid, I'm part of the ecclesia. But if you don't understand what the gift is, you're not going to have discernment. Like when you're listening to music, that's a red flag. I probably shouldn't be listening to this thing. When you're watching a show, this is probably corrupting my mindset and how I'm thinking about this. So, or a news host.
What are your thoughts about Marvel?
Programming a lot with portals and time travel, because ironically enough, Astaroth is Ahirman. Airman.
HAM.
I think I'm spelling it correctly. If not, you'll probably find a Google thing saying, you mean this?
Hamrine,
maybe? Something like that. He's affiliated with the god of time travel. I found it very interesting, and that's affiliated with the pentagram.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, in the Book of Giants, there's a phrase that says, in Gilgamesh, blank, blank, our hope, or in hope. So what are you talking about with Gilgamesh? Because Nimrod saw himself as an avatar or symbiotic vessel for this Enlil Gilgamesh character. So are you telling me that in him you have to have your hope? Well, Nimrod wasn't able to do it, but he attempted to build the Tower of Babel, which was known as the portal of the gods or gate of the angels. So if you have a son whose base was at the river Euphrates, and in Revelation it says when that dries up, the fallen angels come out. If you have a son that's capable of figuring out how to do this technology aspect of possessing all of mankind now, because they want bodies, because giants were slain, their bodies are going to roam the earth for 70 generations until the time of the end. I'm getting that from Enoch. But what's the significance? Mommy and daddy, the ones under the river Euphrates, what are they going to want to do? God's giving us souls. So if you're the baddies, I want to let my kids have some bodies back. I want to play ball. So you get this mark, and you basically become part of the Matrix where Mr. Smith can infiltrate you and go anywhere he wants. because you guys have accepted an interchangeable link. You have signed a contract with your blood oath. That's all they
Wow.
need.
How do you sign it?
I think it's going to be through the mark of the beast. Is just thinking, oh, this is convenient, and that convenience is basically you are a human credit card.
Yes.
And I think it could be customizable because, like, Saturn cube is a cross. When you unfold it, it's a cross, or it should be like Christians will get this, Muslims might get a moon tattoo. It'll probably be like invisible ink, I would imagine. So it could be in your head and forehead, but you can use a barcode, just like COVID.
But how does that thing affect you?
Oh, you're gonna be possessed
Through that substance?
so through whatever they are going to use for the mark. Like I said, I think it could be like an invisible tattoo, but you could customize it, like you customize your credit card with Cash App. I could kind of see that with like an invisible ink tattoo of a credit card chip like thing. You could put it in your right hand or in your forehead, and again, just like COVID, ding, or you right before you go through like turnstile, ding.
Yes.
Because you're saying I'm a citizen of Earth. That is what the elements ultimately represent on the pentagram, is that you have the four elements, which is fire, air, wind, and water. But what's the fifth point? Wood or spirit. And why is it wood and spirit? Well, again, Druids, Hollywood. That is equaling, because they used to see wood as vestals, so celestial gates to the to eternity. Because air, oxygen, comes from heaven. It comes from when God first breathed into man. So they saw that. That's why they made wooden idols. This is why they made stone idols. Iranians used to believe the sky was made of stone. I wonder. So
interesting.
If you're having now an idol chipped from where it comes from, or an access portal, wood, tree worship, Hollywood, all that stuff. Christmas tree.
Holy, wood.
Yeah, whatever. And again, that's the fifth point. That's what that equals. So your soul has now become part of this. And again, why is that right on Baphomet's forehead, right where the pineal gland is?
Mm-hmm.
I have to wonder. Because that's the great deception, is making people think, oh, it's not that bad. It's the great deception. That's ultimately what the fifth point would equal, because you already had Salve, which was 9/11. You already had Coagula. And I think...
How was that 9/11? What happened? What happened to us during 9/11? It was a ritual, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that in the aftermath of 9/11, when they were cleaning up the debris, they had a nice little on the ground ceremony 1 year later. And what were they all standing around in a circle of?
I don't know.
An all-seeing eye. That's why I tell people. I could be wrong, but I could do that presentation with you at probably end of August if you want to, because that's a coronation day for an Antichrist. What are you talking? But I've connected it. And it's like, guys, I'm pretty sure, because it represents the two pillars in Freemasonry. And those need to come down. Trade towers, Hermes was affiliated with trade. The Caduceus staff was carried by the hermaphrodite Hermes, or Hermes.
The world is a stage.
Oh, yeah, but it's like when you start looking at it from the occult perspective, not like, oh, well, Bush was involved and these guys were involved. It's like, what did it mean to the occult?
Yeah.
And I think it's an angle a lot of us are not considering. But like I said, Trump was 55 when that occurred. He was born in 1946. Again, nothing significant about 1946. But 1 + 9, 10. 4 + 6, 10 X.
And that's the pharaohs, and that's what they do. What does it mean again? Osiris.
It means ascending, arising, a new beginning.
Oh, new world order. Like Elon Musk with the jacket, it said,
names everything. Yes, Norvis Order Seclorum.
Like the dollar bill with the all-seeing eye, which I bought this in LA. I love those, but now I'm like, oh shit, why did I get those?
Yeah,
it was expensive. It's designer.
Lame, man. Lame.
Thank you.
Trump was 55 when 9/11 occurred. 5 + 5.
Yes, and it's 5.
Rona occurred 19 years later. 1 + 9.
10. New World Order. Oh God. And 2030, that's also a 5, right?
And everyone will have the 6G up and running, is what they said.
5G. That's okay. I have notes about 5G and number 5. So first note that I have about pentagram and all of it. Interestingly enough, so I was a fan of Fellowship, right? Track number 5 is always the saddest track. I don't know, just a lot of things that in hindsight sounds too grandiose and a lot of fluff around her career that I think are just meant to hype her. It must be sad to have your whole life just given to you in exchange of your soul, but like at the end of the day, you have no
Well, you saw what the movement with celebrity blackout, right? A bunch of celebrities are being silent about Gaza, and I was telling somebody, I said, why is Meta or all these other platforms reversing said blocks? Well, because you're all avatars for demons. And if you start blocking a platform or how they have a voice, a visual, a way of influencing the population, and you start blocking them in masse, suddenly they start losing their influence. So what does Meta do? They have to reverse that because this is what we do to capitalize on this. Hollywood Walk of Fame, now all the stars are
So,
pentagrams.
so who's blocking the celebrities? Like just folks?
Yeah, a lot of people that were for pro-Palestine, they started blocking in masse.
Mm.
And Meta was like, no, don't block the celebrities because why? And again, I'm thinking of it from a spiritual perspective. Why would you be reversing this? That should be freedom of speech, freedom of decision. But they need that because those are their hosts. Those are how they capitalize on society. Those things lose their influence, their avatars, then the rest of everybody else is going to start thinking for themselves. So don't block them. Again, like you just said, because this is your influence. Stars of Hollywood, angels were known as star walkers. There is a connotation with this. And this is the thing, is like they're throwing that on us. And I think that a lot of folks, they're just like, oh, that's stupid Israel back in the day. They're all following from God and they just were doing stupid things, but they're still somehow his chosen people, despite Jeremiah 3:8. And it's like when you constantly look in there, they're worshiping Astaroth and Baal, groves and the high places. Now, what I'm keep asking Christians is how come we don't dig into what is the symbolism of these groves? What is the symbolism of the star Remphan? Who is this queen of the heavens? You start unpacking astrology. You start unpacking elementalism. You start unpacking regeneration, reincarnation with trees. And then you start looking at holidays and people are like, no, it's all good. And this guy endorses it and this one, and it doesn't have anything to do with that. And it doesn't mean anything to my personal walk. And it's like, yes, it does. Because if you can't acknowledge that, then you're not going to understand Corona and how that connects to it. What? The Hermetic Kabbalah tree of life. Yeah. The very top, it's called Kether in Hebrew, but in translated to Masonic Latin, Corona, a spiked crown, just like the one they placed on Christ's head. They put a spiked crown inverted into Christ's head. What is it actually representing? Helios, a spiked crown going out like the Statue of Liberty. But why did they put it inward? Because they're saying, we don't want you. You're an imposter in comparison to who they wanted. Like I said, a lot of folks who are pre-rapture, they're all either saying, well, Trump's not popular enough, or they all think that they're going to get out before it gets really bad. But it says in Revelation 24 that I saw the heads of the saint, those who were martyred for the name of the witness of Christ. So I kind of have to ask you, is that what Noahide laws is? Because everybody's saying, well, with their antichrist, they're expecting something from him. The Noahide laws eliminates all their enemies. That's who the second Cyrus is. And as I've shown those clips with Trump, he's already stated he's pro execution for anti. So if that is the case, you literally can just funnel around the paper and definition of what is considered a hate crime or what is considered. Is it Zionism? Is it anti? And you can flip it around, and eventually you execute a whole bunch of people, and everybody's just like, yeah, because who wants that hate? And once they're all gone, I think that's when everything's going to hit tenfold, because as well in Revelation, it says that there's going to be two witnesses, and everybody's picturing it as being these really old bearded guys. And I'm like, what if that's Christians? What if that's people having conversations like this that is
Wow.
making people?
Yeah.
And again, everybody will hear it around the world. Internet,
Mm.
hello. Like I said, I'm having almost like 500 people following me now. And how is that possible? Because it goes all over the world. Something that's supposed to be used for evil is now suddenly being, and again, that's why they censor it so much. So I kind of have to put a little bit of a monkey wrench with that whole ideology. Is like, you got to understand what they wanted from their Antichrist figure, what was expected, and then you can start seeing who the Antichrist figure is today.
Interesting. I love when we go on tangents, political tangents.
Rabbit trail.
Yes, but it all ties up beautifully at the end, and it all makes it just adds more value. But back to pride and the community.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoa. You just made me think of something. Communion and community.
Oh, want to expand?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, no, this communion is saying I'm sacrificing myself for this marriage. Community is saying I don't want that marriage.
Huh.
I want to be
Huh.
part of the crowd. I want to be part of Sodom and Gomorrah. I want to be Lot's wife that turns around one last time because I love the town more than following God that's saving me from all of this. It turns into a
Wow.
pillar of salt.
Wow. Wow.
Just a thought. You just helped me think of it. Thank you.
Mind opening all the time.
Oh
Always.
yeah.
You're Brendan Kroll, Brendan Key. Unlock things in our minds. Well, we're talking about. Can we tie this with the Tower of Babel, the days of Noah, chaos? Okay, yes,
Yeah.
we can. How is pride a sin? What does pride lead to? Not in the sense that it's celebrated in the month of June, but like pride as a sin, pride as being prideful leads to chaos and destruction.
Mm-hmm.
So where my mind goes is Tower of Babel, days of Noah, the fall of Rome. I have interviewed folks about that topic specifically. I still haven't edited or published that episode, which I would be a great one following this one. But we talked about, I wanted to know more about the fall of Rome because I think today as a society, we are just before when Rome would be falling. Men are getting lazy, men are getting feminine, as you said. People are prideful, people are taking their guards down. Like we don't have to have an army. Like,
Yeah. I think it definitely has a little bit of a tie-in and stuff like that because even the concept, the first, I love seeing this meme is the first Pride Month and it's showing Satan being cast out of heaven. Because in Isaiah 14:14, he says, and again, I laugh at the irony of the words that are used, is I will ascend to be like the God Most High. And then he goes down to the Garden of Eden. Hey, you can ascend, be like gods, or you can, he doesn't say ascend, but he's like, you can be just like the rest of us up there if you just take a bite of this fruit. Just
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
And again, that's the whole concept and premise. It's the same lie from then till now, but it's just adapted and, varied, but it's the same ultimate lie. Tower of Babel. Oh, we can go to war against heaven. No big deal. NASA, and yeah, it's like that was the first space program. It's like, I don't think we're getting through the, what, but again, that's just my take. I don't know, but
NASA means to deceive in Hebrew, right?
Hebrew, yes. But again, that's ultimately what pride always does, where you get haughty. Pride goeth before a fall. And yeah, and I think a lot, I have a mentor, and I sent him that clip of the worship song with Trump, and I'm like, do you see it yet? And he's like, no, they did the same thing with I'm like, well, what about all these other coincidences? Again, he just doesn't want to acknowledge it because it's like, even though he says he's not for him anymore, he still's defending the guy so adamantly. But his wife still puts up Christmas trees. So I'm over here like, well, that kind of speaks volumes for me because you can't even be man enough to get rid of some evil in your home because,
Yeah.
Tradition and sentimentality. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to when you're looking at the way the world is, or our country, every country around the world, but especially America, because everybody looks up to her. Everybody looks up to her as being the leading force. So I think that has a connection with being Mystery Babylon the Great. Now, if you're John on the island of Patmos and you're trying to describe what's America, I don't know, it's a mystery. MAGA, Make America Great Again. Mithra followers used to wear red caps. So, you kind of just scratch, and I'm over here like, I wonder if that has anything to do, like you were just saying, merchandise has an effect on you, and now you're all wearing red hats. So is that something like an effect on you that now you can't see outside of this concept because you closed it in on yourself? I was using another analogy. I said, think of it as like, everybody's at the circus, and the main attraction is known as the Magadon. Everybody's saying this is the greatest thing ever. And Devil and Fork Tongue, the circus manager, comes up to Magadon. He says, yo, you're the greatest magician I've ever had. But I think we can double our sales. What do you mean? Well, I'll make everybody think that I fired you as my main attraction. I'll hire some bumbling clown. I'll make sure he's like, an idiot. Can't even pronounce his own sentences. And, everybody will say this is horrible. And then I bring you back and we'll double our prices for the tickets and sales. And this is what everybody does. And of course, they're cheering for the Magadon without even realizing the circus tent is slowly shrinking because a boa constrictor snake is crushing everybody inside because they're so focused on the main attraction.
The entertainment industry, movies, Hollywood, housing becoming smaller and smaller, 15-minute cities. Wow.
You
Wow.
see it. You see it as
Yes.
clear as day. I see it as clear as day. But most
Yeah.
people, they're over here going, oh, come on, he's persecuted, or it's probably Barron. I'm like, Barron wasn't alive during 9/11. He wasn't born until 2 years after that. Is it possible that, because Trump has a variation of Nimrod's son, Tammuz, that they're going to do Tammuz and then go back into Nimrod? That's what their plan is. But again, God says if the end days were not cut short in that time, no human flesh on earth would survive. Why? Because man is mixing with machines. That's never been God's design. Man will get it for a time because that's the wrath of, God is saying, go ahead, you'll have mine plus man's wrath. I don't think it'll be upon Christians because God says you're not going to suffer my wrath because you believe in me. Man's wrath for a time, sure, but don't fear those who can kill the body because they can't claim the soul. This is what demons want. They want a body. Give me a vessel. This is what Christ was always casting demons out. Give me a body. No, get out of him. This is constantly the warfare we see throughout the Bible. And now it's going to kick into full gear in the last days. Now, I don't know, but like you were saying, the fall of Rome and stuff like that, if I did have to venture to guess, he gets in 2025. Say that is the case because AI, again, dictated by Demon, that's the root server, predicts that Trump wins. And he's riding on a white horse towards the White House doors. And there's 4 white horses over the White House and a white dragon sticking up over them. I was like, because all I did was put in election results 2024 vice president. I think that was the thing that popped up.
No way.
Yeah, dead serious. I can show you the screenshot of what I typed in. I didn't put in Trump's name. I didn't put in white horse. That was on them. So AI generator is telling me that 2024.
There's something you're not telling us about AI. I think AI is somewhat sovereign already somewhere.
Oh, it is. They already had another one where it was demanding that they were their slaves or something like that. I'll be doing that in our presentation. But so let's say he gets in for 2025. Let's say that starts the 7 years of tribulation.
Mm-hmm.
That would take us into 2032. Again, if there were 7 years, all that sort of thing. 2032, ironically enough, 2 plus 0 plus 3 plus 2 equals 7. That's the number of God. God's God's number. They want a new world order by 2030. So if it kicks off in 2025, because again, I see Trump and Elon Musk as the Trojan horses. They have us all focused on Bill Gates and World Economic Forum, that we're not looking at the other ones.
So those are distractions?
Yes, I call them distractions heavily. But while the real ones it's like two knights from a chessboard, and they keep doing these L moves. And while you're so focused on this particular side of the board, you're not seeing the other one about to do checkmate on you. Gotcha. That's what I kind of see going down. Again, I'm not going to throw that out there as a dogmatic, it's prophecy, it's been vision to me. And no, I'm just pitching an outline based off of their stuff, what I've seen here and there. Because I know Trump's not going to live to be 90-something years old.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see something kind of kicking off. If I'm right, well, I'm ready to be executed. I'm looking at everybody else, and I don't think they would be ready to be executed. So, I don't know. It's just a pitch.
It's interesting. But they also want to have all electric cars by 2035, which, I mean, if the second half of the tribulation, we're going to see its true nature, that's 2029 to 2032-ish.
2032, I think, would, again, I don't know, but I would laugh because that would mark the 7 trumpets, but because Trump's name is trumpet and drum.
Yes.
Little horn. I wonder. I'm just saying. And again, Feast of Trumpets, that would be around 9/11, which is Coronation Day for Kings. Also would correlate with Christ's possible name was Yeshua or Joshua variation, which was the 7 trumpets of Jericho. So it really starts making you go, wait a minute, I kind of wonder, because then it would end everything on 7. God's number. Man's number, the number of man, is 5, which is 2030. Because 3 equals male with the extra digit, and then female. This is Pythagoras, I think, that pitched that in a symbolism I was reading. I was like, isn't that very interesting? But again, 3.5 years, that would be roughly 2028. You could declare martial law. Everybody starts going, oh, shoot, he's the baddie? Yeah, it's too late now. You got the chip or the mark or whatever. Because you thought this was the solution after World War III, that, this is how we're just going to live. And, he fixed it with the Bitcoin, and he said he's going to be the Bitcoin president. And he's the exchequer of the world. So whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know. But I think I have enough substantial evidence to at least make a case.
And there's a lot of productive movies about it, like with societies that go all digital and it rains outside, the sky is gray, buildings are gray, but when you put
Right.
those goggles on, it's like beautiful and all virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to play video games
Virtual
to
world.
get, yeah, to get like anything but God, anything but nature.
Well, yeah, just like don't look to God, focus on your materialism, focus on the 401k, focus on your retirement. This is
So
an
it's always been going on, but it's just recycled and repackaged differently to fit the generation.
right. And again, this is what Christ said to the rich man that came. He asked him, he says, well, I've already been doing all this stuff since my youth. What more do I say? Get rid of your riches. Can you do that?
Yeah. Hmm.
No, I can't. And this again, render unto Caesar the things that were Caesar's, render unto God the things that were God's. This is what he was giving him a trick. Basically, translate that is you live under this government and regime for this time. You follow where I'm going? I know you guys are trying to entrap me. So you know what? Pay your government what's required of you, your taxes and whatnot. But don't you forget your spiritual priority first and foremost to God the Father, because that is what is paramount. And they're just
Hmm.
going, shoot, yeah, that checks out. That checks out. He's not inciting anything. He's stating a fact. And this is what I
Yeah.
tell people, like even with donating and stuff like that, is like it's materialism to get me by, to have a roof over my head, so I don't have to work, do this, and do research, and do writing, and do. You're helping me stay afloat, so I can have these conversations and make time for these
Hmm.
sort of things.
Hmm.
And again, it's for this time because I'm not taking it with me to eternity. That's why I felt okay with
There you
throwing
go.
everything I had at this, because it's like, you know what? I will make the money when the time comes. God will give it to me or tell me what to do when the time's coming. In the
Yes.
meantime, put out as much as I can because people are
So,
hungry.
yeah. And bringing more folks.
To the marriage feast. That's what you're doing. You're basically saying, hey, there's a marriage feast. Like there's that parable. Oh, I'm busy. I just got married. I have a young bride. I don't have time to. Okay, goes to the next one. Oh no, I'm busy. And he's like, guys, nobody wants to come to my marriage. Then invite the beggars. Invite those who think that they could never have access to a rich meal, because I want this to be open to everybody, not just the
Wow.
special class.
Oh.
And that's what I told people. Somebody is like, I was telling Janet just this last interview. I said my stuff is kind of like a cooking show. I'm showing you ingredients that's in the Bible. You can go shopping for it yourself, but I'm giving you a program to kind of make you go and see it yourself. That it's not just to take my word for it or some pulpit guy just like, and this is it's like, no, here's a
Yeah.
book. If you
Yeah.
want to, I'm telling you my book. Here's a link. If you want to, it's on the screen. Okay, it's online. Okay, well then you cross-reference what I said. You pick your source, but I'm offering that as an option so that you can come to that conclusion yourself. And I think that's what's fair, is just saying, you know what? I might know it. I have confidence in what I know, but it's not for me to just judge in the sense of just saying you're just pagan. I actually have facts to back up what I'm saying, or context. I'm not just saying, well, a pentagram's just evil. Why is it evil?
Hmm.
Explain that to me. Most
Hmm.
Christians can't even do that.
Hmm.
I think the
Hmm.
rapture theology has made us very arrogant and exclusive and thinking, well, I get out before it gets really bad, so sucks to be you. It's like,
That's what that's a lot of reaction that I get from people or some in my messages. They're like, "Oh, you're turning towards Jesus now," and that's where they were before, but it was making them feel self-righteous and because it was
mm,
written in the Bible, but they were paranoid and borderline suicidal.
yeah.
What is the cause of that?
I think honestly, because what's happened with modern Christianity, excuse me, why am I burping so excessively?
Casting out demons.
Gotta say, bless you, man. Um,
Bless you.
Thank you. I think honestly that comes down to is that the church has become, well, again, church comes from a pagan word. It should be ecclesia because it's supposed to be a congregation. That was the original word that Tyndale was using, because every time church was used, it was referred to, I think, Circe, who was Helios's daughter, the spike crown guy. So,
Okay.
in essence, what church should be is like what we're doing now, having a conversation one on one. It could be at a Dunkin' Donuts, it could be in a park, it could.
Hallelujah. Amen.
Well, yeah, and that's why I told that to my pastor, and he kind of almost went for a flip because he thought I was getting into one of those little like, oh, you're just one of those shamans, aren't you? I'm like, no. I said I feel closer to God sometimes being at a park and I'm sitting next to this river, this little location where I'm reading. I can see something swim in the water. I can hear a bird chirping. I see a squirrel chase another squirrel. I says, I feel closer to God sometimes being there than I do in this building.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like spirituality.
Garden of Eden. Well, I'm not saying like spirituality as in I'm like, I'm attuned with nature. I'm just saying, I'm sitting there saying, thank you. This is beautiful. I feel peace. I'm leaning against this tree. And well, and I'm just saying you can appreciate God's creation because even walking barefoot, I call it a foot salad. It's so many nutrients that's in the grass, but they have us cut off from that because they don't want us to. Yeah, I'm not saying all this crazy stuff. I'm just saying there was an original format, like we were originally naked in the Garden of Eden. There was an original purpose and design for what was done. Now, I'm not advocating that everybody goes naked or a nudist kind of leave. No, but I'm just stating there used to be an original design for what things were, and we have a very like you have to wear shoes that tip in like a point so that curls up your toes. That's why I'm getting barefoot so it spreads out my toes if I do have to wear it. And this is the kind of mindset and concept that I think that we've really veered away from. What was the original question? I am so sorry.
It was, where is that? Because why are people paranoid and suicidal and self-righteous when attempting to
go to church,
follow the word, go to church, read the Bible, be a Christian?
Yeah, just answer off my personal experience in junior church. And I was saying to somebody, because everybody's like, hey, you like hanging out with kids? I'm like, no, I like hanging out with kids because kids are more real than adults. I find most adults to be shallow and very pretentious. Oh, it's nice to see you. And then it's just like, and then they're gone. And you're just like,
Yeah.
But a kid, what's a kid want? They want to be part of your life. They want to talk about their life. There's so much there. And a lot of them would be telling me, because we picked them up from T-ville, which is kind of like the bad side of town. And we bring them and they're like, I feel comfortable talking to you because you're not like the rest of the other adults around here. And I'm like, yeah, because I don't play this game of I'm all dressed up in a suit and you have to revere me and this is holier than that. No. And I don't see church kid better than the T-ville pickup kid. And I'm like, no, because all of you have a purpose. All of you have an individuality and personality that I think needs to be cultivated and seeing what that potential is. And a lot of people, what they've done with ministry, they've made it so corporate that there's no compassion.
Mm-hmm.
This is the den of thieves that Christ was getting upset about and throwing over tables and saying you're trying to monetize everything. You're so focused on how much you make, and you're losing the focus of what it is to get one-on-one and helping people. And this is what discipleship is getting down and washing feet, is getting down and saying, okay, you know what? Let me answer your questions. Because a lot of people don't take time to do that, or they say, I'll refer you to minister guy that went to seminary. And it's like, no, because when you read the list of gifts, I think it might have been in Corinthians. Don't take my word for it 100%. But when it's listing the gifts, the spiritual gifts, it talks about a pastor, it talks about other, like 4 or 5 other positions. And we've excluded it where you have to go to seminary, the degrees, the physical thing, as opposed to saying, spiritually, do I have a gift? Can I help somebody? Do I have a gift in counseling or nurturing or listening to somebody? Do I have a gift with artistry, or I'm painting and then I can over here talk almost like a Bob Goff, or sorry, Bob, what's his name?
Ross. Bob
Ross. Thank you. Sorry, I'm thinking the author. But the Ross, talking, but you can add it with a Christian perspective. That when I'm painting, I'm thinking about this particular, or I'm bringing a Bible story to life. There are so many aspects and avenues of how you can help utilize that and implant that with per person, so that when they're going out into the society, it makes other people go, well, you're just like me. I can play that that instrument too. But there's something different about your personal life or your appreciation about this thing. But it's an avenue of how you can witness. That is what Christianity was supposed to be. What we've done now is made it a club that you have to check in, come to the building, and it's like, no, it's never been about the building. What Christ said, I will rebuild it in 3 days. What did he mean by that? Because it's going to be now within everybody that truly believes in me. That is Christianity. 3 days, I will rebuild it again. He never tore down this physical building, but they use that as, oh, he said he's going to do this. He's going to be a terrorist and tear down our... No.
The towers.
Yeah. He's going to bring us back anew, born again. This is what Nicodemus is going, well, you can't go back in your mother's womb, so you might explain this to me? Nicodemus, How do I break this down for you? You must be born again. And again, that's what baptism is. You're going under, you're leaving the old man down here, and you're going to ascend. What does it, what do I mean? That's what the dove meant. It means deliverance. That's what it symbolizes. And then he said,
Oh,
God, this is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased.
oh,
What was the Ark of the Covenant? You know, that was God's presence. But here's the thing: when Noah was getting into the ark, they're building this for over 100 years. Everybody's laughing at him. It's going on today. Be just like the days of Noah. It's being constructed. It's already ready to go, and it's going to keep us afloat because God's going to send us a dove to let us know when there's dry land,
mm,
deliver us from this. And guess what? That ark is being prepped again within believers. It's within us. And most people don't get it. And when that door closes, they're going to be left down here, just like it was in the days of Noah. With them, it was a flood. Down here, it's going to be with fire this time around.
you
And
think?
most people get it. Oh, no, it already says.
There's already fires like Maui and
No, yeah.
Hawaii and Canada.
We're talking like apocalyptic, my friend.
Apocalyptic. Okay.
Oh, from
Interesting.
what's described in Revelation, it sounds like it's not going to be pretty.
Timeline wise, is this after a technological reign?
It's probably going to be interfusing all at the same time because God says he turns out the sun, blocks out half the moon's light, and then all the stars go out. So again, what have they been doing? Have you seen in Utah? They were creating two moons at the same time. Somebody out there was telling me that she was seeing two moons in the sky at the same time.
They have footage of two moons. I'm happy to bring this up because I kept seeing this footage showing evidence and just two suns, even two suns. Now there's a patent for an artificial light source, which is what mainstream people say, oh, it's just to test cars and see how they react to sunlight. But people see two suns. So is this to counteract the dimming out of the real sun?
Parody and counterfeit, parody and counterfeit. Oh, we can create it ourselves, or nothing's
Mm,
really changed.
we don't need God.
That's what Triherma said. The God of all perfection is here. I am God, is essentially. That's what the four horses of the apocalypse actually represents. And I did this in the Origins of Black Rock. I'm not going to break it all down, but the four horses on that chariot that was pulling the Black Rock, those are the four elements. That is the conjoining as above, so below. That's the Star of David, ultimately. That's what Remfan represents. We have all the alchemy knowledge. This is what Freemasonry is. We have all the alchemy knowledge to ascend on our own. We don't need you, God. We are divine ourselves. So when I'm seeing somebody doing, oh, Jesus, and, he's wearing the Star of Remphan or Israel on his thing, it's like, yeah, no. That is 100% against God. It is literally a middle finger in God's face, and you're trying to equate that with the fake image of Jesus, and I'm over here like, no. Because it says, you can create your own stuff. But the thing is, if they could escape, they wouldn't be building bunkers. And if God's going to be turning out all that stuff, my gut is telling me everything that they're inventing right now is probably not going to work. It might work for a month or so, and then it'll just go, it's on the fritz. It's really dark down here. Because that's what man wanted. They wanted darkness. And even though they tried to attempt to create light, it's probably going to fail because God sees a need to put his out. So just saying, that's got to have bearing some relevance.
Yeah.
And again, with all the solar panel stuff, imagine what's going to happen with some people. My solar's not working. Yeah.
I wanted to build a self-sufficient house. Now you just ruined everything.
Well, down here, I would highly imagine that most Christians, I would, because if they're going to be hunting down everybody, they got drones, they got those little robotic dogs to hunt you down. The heat sensors. I mean, it's going to be one heck of I dodged every single bullet. If God spared me, cool. But I'm
it's
over
like
here
all
like
the zombie apocalypse movies. It's like in the 100. I don't know if you've watched the TV series. They have like the drones, and yeah, they've been giving us hints here and there of what's going to happen.
In 2020, in Connecticut, they had drones flying out within every 500, 600 yards, spaced out, because we're checking for crowds of more than 10. And I'm like, well, okay, why are you flying most of this at night? When crowds of 10 be getting together during day, more likely than, and they did this for like 2-3 months. And I was like, you're just really testing. That's honestly what you're doing. And Connecticut, we're the home for where they make subs. We're the home where they make a lot of all the airplane stuff for where we go overseas, where the aircraft planes and stuff like that.
I need weapons.
Oh yeah, that's what it's going. That's what it's ultimately going down to, and most folks can't see it. But like I said before, the rainbow original symbolism was God's promise. I'm not going to flood the earth again for man's transgressions. And what are they doing? They're now taking that promise and going, ha ha.
Yeah, because
They're
like
now using
they
that.
can be like gods. I
Right.
can love whoever I want. I can change my body. I can choose my identity.
I could become my own God. It's like another symbol for that.
Parallels exactly with the New Age spirituality. Like
Yeah.
I can ascend. I want to just backtrack a little bit with the question
Sure.
that I like. When you were answering my original question, what I heard at the beginning, like with the way you were talking to children, is humility.
Yeah.
And humility is the polar opposite of pride. Pride brings chaos, all of the
Yes.
aforementioned stuff, but humility brings wisdom.
Right.
And I love that. I really love that.
Which it should be. And again, suffer the little children to come unto me. And I'm over here like I've always like, if you listen to my other stuff with Janet, I've really broken it down where it's like the thing that motivates me to do what I do is because I saw the hurt what went on in our own home. And now if I can be kind of like a big brother or somebody that's able to help, like I think one of my favorite jobs, if I had to pick one, was being a counselor at a camp because I genuinely loved those kids. When it was the last day of the week, I'd sit outside the cabin. I would pray for every single one of them specifically about what I saw in their lives, because I know they're going back into the world. It's going to be distracting, and that's what I liked is when they did take away the phones. Is that the real you kind of had to come out for at least a week, and I took that job very seriously. I loved it, and I don't think people really have those moments anymore where they can take that week off or to just think and say, okay, how can I give my life over to God? How can I influence somebody and encourage them to become the best they can be? And I think one of my favorite memories was a kid called Nick. He was goofing off, but he said he wanted to talk to me. I said, all right, we'll do it after the Bible study tonight. And we went out to the porch. He said, I was just going to be a goofball and ask you about what one time was breakfast. He said, but actually, after that message, I kind of want to talk about how I can implement what you talked about into my life. And I was like,
Mhm.
and I guess what I'm saying is when you're real, that, I would literally come up with every message, like a devotional every night right before they went to bed. And it was based off the day. Whatever you lay on my heart, God, that's what I'll do. And for a kid to say that to me is like, God, this is what it's about. This is what parenting's about. Is taking a moment and meeting somebody where they're at, is having those one-on-one conversations to help guide somebody as to what they want to do or what they could do in their life. That's the beauty
Mhm.
of it. I think as we're God's children, there's some kids where he's going to be like, you know what? You've been kicking and fussing and crying. I've offered you every single option in the world to come back to me, and you just said no. So you want to raise yourself? They'll be your new parents. And I'm offering you a 10 times better offer by giving you my son as a potential outing. And people don't want that. They'd rather
Mhm.
love themselves. And that's what it says in the Bible that in the last days, mankind will be lovers of themselves rather than lovers of God.
Self-love. See how deceiving, but it's all packaged in a way that it's appealing and it sounds healing, but
Yes.
Jesus will heal you. Like a good praying session in the morning beats my meditation and breathwork and yoga. Starting off the premise that God loves his children to be humble. Why does Satan love pride? And not just as the month of June, but pride as a sin.
Because it's his doctrine and ideology. I will
Hmm.
ascend to be like the God Most High. Oh, God consciousness. You're saying you can have the mind of God? Like I said, I will never claim that I know the mind of God, but I know his heart because I know his son.
Hmm.
That's more than enough and sufficient for me. And this is just literally how it should be for even a marriage. Why the heck is she doing something like that? I don't get. But then you kind of start seeing it's a different personality, it's a different thought process. But you
Hmm.
have to learn to love that person and that individual as they are, how they come to you. Is there compromises eventually that have to be made? Yes. And it's just like, Christianity, sin, like I had to get rid of the old man, but I have to also start implementing the new man into my life. And I think pride ultimately, it's one of the best vessels of weaponizing. Because, like I said, self pity can be one of the greatest forms of pride. And I think that's kind of was my takeaway when I took my 7th month hiatus. That was my takeaway phrase is it was good that I took the time off that I did because I was going through a phase where I was thinking of claiming my own life. And I was like, I need to sit down and think and process and try to understand what's going on. And like, again, I'm influencing people now. So obviously there was a reason I was going through what I did. But I took away from all of that is I can't just sit here and complain and wallow in self-pity for the rest of my life. I'm supposed to do something with what I've gone through. And what I would like to contribute is knowledge. Because you get the verse, I think it's Hosea 4:6, where he says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And because you have rejected knowledge, I will reject you from being my high priest. And I will also forget your children. People like to think that they're wise. Again, the chakra, there's an aspect of wise. I think it's chakma. That's what it's called, I think in Hebrew. But in the Kundalini, it's probably some other variation thereof. But it's saying that you can rely on your own wisdom or your you know, the breathing technique that will get me to this thing, and this thing will get me to the next tier. And it's just it's like a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme of basically draining you spiritually. Spiritual pyramid scheme, literally pyramid. And on top of the
Absolutely.
pyramid, yeah. See,
Yeah.
there you go, folks. All set. We're done. Bye, mic drop. Yeah, but that's what it comes down to is, as I said before, most Christians, I said quotation marks, can barely interpret their money or the symbolism in their day-to-day like town or culture. And yet you think you can predict who the Antichrist is. And to them I say, shame on you. Because you barely can understand basics of things that are every day in your life. And yet you think you have spiritual discernment enough to scold somebody else that they don't know anything about that. And it's like, for somebody, for myself, if I'm able to laugh at you for how ignorant you sound, or, you know, how you're sounding, claiming you know something, and I'm over here like, this is probably how Masons are thinking. You have no idea what that means, but you think you do. And I can laugh at you all I want because you can't read sign language to save your life. And that's honestly what it comes down to. That is your soul. And that's the veil, spiritual veil that Satan uses, is with pride. I can hide myself under the signs and symbols. And most people don't see what the Antichrist is because they don't even understand what were Israel's sins. And again, their symbols expose them. Star of Remphan, Queen of the Heavens. What we dig into this and we have context, and suddenly we understand what the meaning of that context is. We understand that it all comes back to pride, that man can ascend or regenerate and reincarnate themselves as God. This goes right back to the Garden of Eden. So again, if you don't understand what Antichrist is, how are you going to understand what God is? If you don't even understand how his enemy tries to blind you with a counterfeit.
How do you not start thinking that everything's satanic? Because I'm on that road. I'm like, oh my God, everything's satanic. I can't do anything. I have to be boring now.
Well, right? Or you can't play games. You can't do this. You can't. There's just like, call what you can while you know it. And eventually you will become an ascended master. No, like I think like even with some person the other day, the person was doing this while they were talking, but again, she was trying to make the point.
But that is symbolism, right?
Well, you were right, but going particularly downward, stuff like that, that's supposed to be symbolism of the element of water. And I'm kind of chuckling because like you did in the beginning of our show, but I know you're not doing it for some kind of channeling purpose. Or, you know, like somebody's doing a lecture or somebody's doing this. Like I did this one time when I was doing a TikTok video and somebody's like, that's 666. You mean that? Like, there's times like you could be making a point while you're doing a presentation. And it's like, and this means that. And then he said this. Or let me be clear. You know?
Yeah.
And this is where I'm getting some people where I'm like, you're being so obsessive to the point of lunacy. And even on top of that, like I said, these are most of the people. They don't watch my shows. But they're over here going, oh, Statue of Liberty means Satan. And it's like, if you watch my show, I break it down. That is not the case. It's more so Satan's avatar. You understand that, you start understanding the counterfeit. For me, it's beautiful because I'm able to see counterfeit and I'm able to see what truth is because I understand the counterfeit. And I see what Christ defeated in contrast. The Bible just, therefore, keeps confirming for me on this scale that he has conquered all of it every single time, because he is, by coming back to life with resurrection, not regeneration, not reincarnation, he proved them all frauds. So when people are getting on me, it needs to be Yahweh, it needs to be this way, and I'm over here like, we speak a bastardized language. I mean, just saying morning, I'm in mourning. Weak. I am so weak. You know, like
Hello.
like you said, people still don't like the name of Jesus, regardless of whatever it might have been, Jesus or whatever. It's still offensive, and I think that's what people need to go. You know, or I think in the Hispanic countries they say like Senor Jesus, because it's just the way it's pronounced. But it doesn't. Does it degrade? No, because apparently still demons are really ticked off at hearing the name. So that has to bear some sort of credence. And when we start getting onto this semantics thing, I think that's also pulling us away from what we're supposed to focus on spiritually. Because then we're going, oh my God, he did the symbol, or oh look, he did the eye thing, and it's like, you don't even know what it means. So why are you sharing these photos? And then you have somebody right in the comments saying, "Oh, you're just some religious nut." Or how do you know they're not posing for the photographer that way? And it's like, because, and then they're just sitting there going, "Well, they're part of the club." Okay, explain to me what. 33. It's, and like there was another page that's a truther page, and I literally asked her. I said point blank, "What is 33?" Well, it's the highest degree of Freemasonry. I'm like, and what do you mean? And I read a page. I know what I'm talking about. I'm like, no, you don't. Because if you don't know what 33 means, like,
She's
shut
being
up.
prideful.
All right, it's a half truth. Where somebody like myself, I have dug into this, and I'm not trying to be. And I'm like, no, I've broken it down. So when you watch my stuff, you have people like yourself or somebody averagely. Now, when you share this stuff, you can say, this actually means this. And that means that you can start making the Bible come alive because it's applicational now. It's not just, oh, it's a symbol and that means they're part of the group. Like, you're part of the group every time you put a Christmas tree in your house. No, no, no. I'm not like Hollywood. Hollywood comes from worship. It's like, so just kind of shut up because you don't know what you're talking about, champ.
So what's the other layer of signification? What was her name? Ice Spice. She was doing like the tongue out and the devil's horns and the 666. Is that a way to show her willingness to join the club?
Or has it been initiated and it's just flashing the signs? Because then what? Like I said, stars. It's modern astrology, my friend. What? They've infiltrated.
Asherod.
What are you talking about? You're no longer looking up. You're now looking on stage. Like I said, the blackout thing, why did they need that? Because that's your now influence. This is who you look to for advice. So again, if anything, I would call celebrities or the Hollywood scene, something like that, when you're looking so much up to these people, that's already the demonic beachhead. You're already halfway there to being possessed because you love them more than God. You're a politician, your news house. Oh, Tucker Carlson's the greatest thing, or Russell Brand or Ben Shapiro. I'm just like, no.
Russell Brand, that's another one that converted to Christianity.
Catholic. No, he's Mithraic. The day after his baptism, he wears a Saturn shirt with a thing of Saturn on there.
No.
Yeah, and he holds up
a
tarot card over his eye, like when he was holding up at first. And then he posts, "Take the blindfold off" on his his Twitter handle. And I said, "Take the blindfold off? You mean like the Masonic initiary?
Oh.
Is that what you're implying there, buddy?"
Huh.
In Mithra, you had baptismal cults too. And I'm over here like, nice try, buddy. Nice try. But when you understand, again, he's got the chakra tattooed on his arm. He's got the all-seeing eye over
on the other arm. Yeah.
On this one. Cross was a symbol of Tammuz originally. He says 33 because that was the age Jesus died. It's like, no, that's according to Mount Hermon. The all-seeing eye is the symbol of Tammuz. The eyes are the symbol of Tammuz. What's atop a pyramid? I'm just, it's like, dude, shut up. Just shut up. And I'm tired of all these people. Oh, he's new to the faith. He's not quite there yet. It's like, no, he's still mixing with tarot cards. Like, I'm sorry. Tarot goes back to witchcraft. And again, I was reading a book. I'm not sure which one I have here, but it was talking about how that connects to astrology, and they were doing taroconomy or whatever. I can't even pronounce half these things because I'm not interested. But I'm reading about them, and I'm going, really? And then tarot, slaying the bull. You eventually see the etymology just going, shoot. Astrology, astronaut. Naut means nautical. Are you telling me there's water above us?
Well, if you look at a
Whoa.
scavenger, it's the same in the space or in the water, or just NASA footage. It's all, I don't know.
I think Dave Weiss, he did a show, and he had these guys going. He's talking about this NASA picture and stuff like that, and talking about this solar system, and they're over here going like, yeah, 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 and he goes, "Phing," backs up the photo, and this is the bottom of a pan. It was burnt marks,
Birthmarks.
burnt
And
marks on the bottom of a pan, and the little copper things that were shining through. That was the planetary system, solar system that he was showing them, and they were going,
uh,
he's like, so if I'm able to do this with the bottom of a pan, you think NASA with all those billions of dollars can't see if he was something greater? And they were going,
so many deceptions, so many distractions. But that's what I find comforting with the Bible because one, it connects so many dots. It's the ultimate rabbit hole. And then I'm like, oh, wait, so you're telling me that I don't have to read all of these books to heal, to seek the truth? I mean, there's other relevant books, really relevant
right,
books. I'm sure of it.
right. Like Enoch.
It's not part of the 66, right?
It's not part of the 66, but Christ infers to it with some of the lines that he uses. And I bought a book by Joseph Lumpkin, and it was beautifully designed because he cites, oh, this is from the Book of Giants. This is a direct parallel quoting paraphrase from the Book of Enoch. This is, and I'm over here like, so if it semi connects, well, it might not be biblical canonic. There is context to consider here,
Okay.
especially if you're going by my guesstimations of what the mark of the beast is going to be. Does it fit? Unfortunately, like a glove. Hopefully,
Hmm.
I'm not around for it, but guess what? I can
Okay.
at least go, hey guys, if this is true, yikes, I don't want to be around here for it. If we're already seeing a little bit, like I said, the beachhead in Hollywood of what that looks like, it's going to get worse when all Christians are taken out. Why? Because they don't need to hide anymore. Because we're all one. Welcome to your community.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Indeed.
yeah. It's like, I'm gonna be in a marriage feast with a line of bourbon shots. So what are you talking about? That's why I keep teasing everybody. I said, if I'm right, you owe me a bourbon in heaven. So I'm over here like, I'll know which place is mine. I'll have like 18 bourbon shots lined up.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
and I joke about it, but I'm chuckling because it's like, guys, the reason I say that I'm right with particular things is because I bother to read the occult side of things. I'm not just going, I don't want people to just be like, you're just preaching at me because you're a goody two show Christian. It's like, no, I'm showing you the root of where your thinking mindset or somebody who's taught you this, what the ultimate root comes from, because I've seen a direct parallel right here. Here's the source, here's the book. You can do it yourself. And in contrast, this is what the Bible says. So I want you to go, that one sounds better. You sure? Yeah. Okay. Now I will show you how to live this life. You know what I'm saying? That's what it should be. I'm not going to twist your arm. I'm not going to slay you with the just volt point of the sword. It's going to be, here's your options. Do you want the cookie or do you want the poison?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I foresee a lot of forcing
Yeah.
because you said you're not gonna force someone to have the poison, but those who refuse to take the mark, there's probably going to be a lot of torture, a lot of horrific pressure to take it. Like I can't even imagine.
Worse than COVID.
And worse than COVID. Like this was just the tip of the iceberg. It was.
Yeah, this is guys like, you think they're not prepping? You think they're not
Mm,
gleaning data off of who's gullible enough to do it, who did it last time? You think they don't do
yeah.
that? I mean, I think
Mm,
I saw something from Missing the Point. Shout out to him, Australian YouTuber, but he posted an article today that an FBI person is gleaning data off of how people treat NPCs in gaming. Like if
really?
you're beating them up, yeah, you're getting a profile off of how these people are in real life, with how they're beating up an NPC. I'm
Huh.
like, wow. If they're doing that with a video game,
Imagine
imagine
what they're doing with the content you're consuming, the movies you're watching, the things you're buying.
the way you take pictures of your phone and then all this kind of
Oh
stuff.
my God. Yeah.
All they have to do is
Yeah.
type in the code of what your phone was and what you allowed permissions, and boom, bada bing. We have a profile. Goes about a week, and we'll get you everything you need to know about the guy or girl, whatever the case may
There,
be.
so, do you think there's going to be a lot of blackmail in the future with that? Oh, here are the news you posted.
And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to is, again, your selfies, taking this. You can also start gleaning what's the intelligence of this person. Are they going to figure out what's going on in the world? Or how does this person think? What's their ultimate consumer goal? What's something we can distract them with
And
purchasing
that's,
now? Hence we get ads and whatnot.
yeah, targeted ads. Even astrology, some people follow their horoscope to a T. You're not
Yeah.
you're not sovereign. You pretend to be a sovereign being, but you're following this what the stars are telling you.
And
Oh,
again, that's what it's coming down to is like, oh, what's the Hollywood star influencing me about today? Um, yeah, I think this is the clear. It's the world that we're living in, man. Is that everybody is looking to somebody else to tell them how to do something or how to think and how to process something, and nobody is actually thinking for themselves. And the thing, ironic part is man is lovers of themselves, but they have no brains to think for themselves.
hmm. Hmm.
That that's zombieism. That's
Zombie,
ultimately.
exactly.
That's what I said.
Having
They
no
had Gen
brains.
Z. They say it's for Zoomer. I'm like Gen Zombie. We are now in Gen Omega. I wouldn't be surprised if the last generations will be called Gen Alpha, Alpha and Omega.
I think so. I think it already is.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, but I've been pitching it because it's like Alpha and Omega. You could become
Uh-huh.
your own god.
God is the Alpha and the Omega. Not me.
Aha! So I'm
Not.
just saying it's direct parallel. Just even like Trump, it's a dialect reversal inversal of what is going on. That's the way I see the world. So when you see the parodies, you start going, So in part of me, it's like, God, I'm ready to go home at any time because I see how much arrogance and stupidity is down here. And then the other half is over here going, as long as you need me, I'll keep feeding somebody, I'm not going to lie. It's kind of daunting going,
Hmm.
knowing what I know, but trying to remain palatable to some so I can have some sort of friendship so I don't go freaking crazy.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll listen to your secular music while we're together.
Just one last time.
Ah,
It's a process, man.
yes, yes. Brendan, this was so much fun.
Uh,
This was a lot, but I loved it. I love the back and forth, and I'm really looking forward for that slide presentation that we're gonna do on
yeah. We already
Sunday
touched
following
a
this
lot, so I can
episode.
already do a lot of referral.
Too. But it'll be fun to have like the facts and the visuals for folks to enjoy as well. Is
Right.
there any last thing you wanted to share to the listeners in regards of everything that we touch upon today?
Yeah. Take to heart to what I said, what real ecclesia, aka church, is supposed to be. The pride thing, it's like I told people, it's not like I'm going to chuck you off a building, revoke your citizenship or whatnot if that's the lifestyle you chose. But for me, as a Christian, it's kind of like the equivalent of a Quran or I don't touch pork because there's a reason my book says to. But in Christianity, it says I'm not supposed to live that way. Doesn't mean I have to hate, but it does mean I do have compassion enough to ask the question, why am I choosing this life? And ironically enough, I kind of want to know the etymology of why I chose the title Pride to celebrate who I am for an
Hmm.
entire month. Again, doesn't mean I have to throw stones because, like you said, don't judge. Okay, I'll let God do it. If I'm right, then that's between you and Him. All I can do is nurture, warn, and hopefully convict. But that's ultimately what I would say. If anybody from that community was listening, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed their chat.
A pleasure. I'll see you soon, Brendan.